everybody! The original intention of this video was to be one of my top 10 videos. It was going to be the top 10 suggestions I have for AEW and their Dynamite program, which debuts this week. But unfortunately, I couldn't think of 10 things to say, 10 recommendations. And everything I said, I did list, I feel like I've already said in previous videos. So I would just be beating a dead horse at this point. But I did want to do this video, which would be sort of a preview to the big week in wrestling that comes ahead. Raw getting its season premiere, or whatever that means. I mean, it's not like Raw has an off-season anyway, so how can you have a season premiere when you never have an off-season? But, Brock Lesnar's going to be on the show. Hogan and Flair are going to be on Miz TV, and I think Goldberg's going to be on the show too, so they're going to, try and make the show seem special, in addition to debuting, supposedly, a new intro, new music, a new set with pyro and everything. So they're trying to, usher in, a glossy new coat of paint for WWE programming. Hopefully it succeeds and hopefully it works. But I think more important, actually, are next week's NXT and next week's Friday Night SmackDown, which will be making its debut on Fox, with the main event of Kofi Kingston defending the WWE title against Brock Lesnar. I'm very interested in seeing how they present SmackDown, what changes they make, and what exactly happens. I think Lesnar has to win the title. People will disagree with me on that, but I think the credibility that Brock Lesnar brings is going to mean a lot more than Kofi's current reign, which bored me to tears, which has been boring for a while now. And thank God we're past the Randy Orton feud. It's like, all right, guys, you got to take the belt off of Kofi, because it's just dead and buried at this point, and I just want it to be over. And let's usher in a new era on SmackDown, and let's do something fun and exciting, and hopefully they make changes to the presentation. Hopefully they differentiate it from Raw, and there's actually distinct presentation styles for both shows. I think that would be beneficial to both brands if they both had their own unique style of presentation, but we'll see how all that goes. And then on this week's NXT, with limited commercial interruption, as they made sure to point out many times on last week's show, we're going to have 3 title matches. We're going to have Shayna Baszler versus Candice LeRae for the women's title. We're going to have the Street Profits challenging the Undisputed Era for the tag team titles. And we're going to be having Matt Riddle challenging Adam Cole, Bay for the NXT title by virtue of his victory in the street fight on last week's episode. So, big week that they're obviously doing to counter-program AEW and make sure they give the biggest week possible, biggest show possible with a bunch of title matches. I think so far NXT has been good on USA. We'll know more when they switch over to a full 2-hour show on USA. I think the 2-hour format that they have going right now, with going from USA to the WWE Network, has been a little herky-jerky. And I think that was the comment I made last week. It's a little herky-jerky, and the second hour feels kind of pointless, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll know more once they actually go to the full 2-hour format. And one thing, and this is a suggestion for both NXT and AEW. So far, NXT has done really well and has put on well-received shows, largely by just having really good matches. Really good long matches, like the Velveteen Dream, Roderick Strong North American title match with the title change, the 4-way to open up the show with the first episode, Keith Lee and what's his name now in NXT? I keep forgetting it. Dakaija? I forget it. It's Donovan Dijak from the Indies. I keep forgetting the name they give him, but and it's some mutation of it in NXT. I thought they had a really good match to kick off this week's episode, and I thought Riddle and Killian Dane had a pretty solid street fight match, but I think it's easy to kind of do that for now, but that's going to become a problem as you do more and more of these. If you try to have a half-hour-long match every single week, eventually they're going to lose their appeal because it just becomes an expected thing and you just see it all the time. I've always been one that feels like the TV shows should mostly be about angles and promos and building stories, and then at the big takeover specials or the pay-per-views, you get the payoff with the big match. And that's how it should be generally. You can make exceptions, obviously. And not everything is a set-in-stone rule, and getting a really big match for free once in a while is a cool thing to have. But the key word there is once in a while. If you do them too much, then you get overexposure. Again, I think it's fine for now, and Next week, I understand it because they're up against AEW and they want to, make a good impression while AEW is having its first big episode. But those type of things, having half-hour-long matches on every single show, that's going to get old after a while. And I think you got to have story and you got to have build-up and tension and promos and understanding of who these characters are. And you got to do that stuff to really keep the story, keep everything going. And NXT was usually pretty good about that when they were on the network. And now that they're on USA, I think they're going to kind of change their mindset a little bit. And that's got me a little bit worried. I mean, you look at Raw and SmackDown now, they have half-hour-long matches on every episode. Out of necessity, because it's just too much goddamn programming to fill. And nobody seems impressed with it anymore. Because it's just, we see it all the time. Who cares? And your stories suck. NXT's not at a point where their stories suck yet, but and again, that's the thing that AEW is going to have to worry about as well. You can't just rely on the Bucks having a half-hour-long match on every single episode. You can't rely on Kenny Omega having a killer match on every single episode. You can't rely on Cody Rhodes having this super emotional, story-driven match every single episode. You can't. You got to have the build-up. You got to have the story. You got to have promos, angles. I would even say, their big stars are Cody, Omega, Jericho, and the Bucks. I wouldn't have all of them on every single episode. I think that would be overkill. I'd say make the special attractions, and find ways to cycle people out and focus on different talents every single week. And I think that'll keep things fresh, and I think it'll keep it exciting. And if you don't have Cody on the show for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, you might hurt in the ratings in the short term, or Jericho or anybody else. You might hurt in the ratings in the short term, but then when they do show up, you'll get a boost. And it'll, people will start, hopefully people will be tuning in just to see who shows up on each episode. It's kind of that Sting factor in 97 where people tuned in to see if Sting would show up, and not knowing if he was actually going to show up or not. So, and by the way, I have been watching old episodes of WCW Nitro on the network. I started with 95 and I'm working my way through. And, I'll say this, and maybe this bears making an entire video about this, but when I look back on WWF in 95 and I look back on WCW in 95, we all remember it as this shitty period for wrestling, and rightfully so, because the characters were dumb. You had the Dungeon of Doom running around, you had an evil plumber on one show, and an evil pirate, and an evil dentist, and then you had the Dungeon of Doom on WCW just being stupid, and you had the Yeti, and various other dumb things, but there's a lot of booking 101 traits that were there for both shows during that period, not showcasing everybody on every single episode, having squash matches, and WCW, for all the faults during that period, is they did make the Giant look like a fucking monster, because he was beating up Randy Savage, Sting, Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, on a regular basis. He was beating these guys up and looking like a fucking monster, and it's there's some booking 101 things you could really take from that and apply to the current product, and I think would really improve it. Now, just taking that out there. There's actually some aspects to the shows in 95 that I kind of miss. Now, I'm not saying the shows are good. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's there's some mechanical formulaic things that they could probably readapt into the current product and it would be better. And I will say this weird thing. Craig Pitbull Pittman, I kind of like him. I forget that I liked him. Back when I was a kid, I kind of was a mark for the guy. He was kind of like WCW's version of a heel Sergeant Slaughter in a way. And I was I kind of digging this guy. I watched a match he had with Eddie Guerrero, and it was pretty solid. And I'm man, I kind of dig this guy. I wonder why he didn't make it. But anyway, just weird sidebar there. But the big thing that's happening next week, and I think the big thing that that I'm focused on, mainly because I'm going to be attending the show, the first episode of AEW Dynamite on TNT, which looks like a stacked show. We've gotten Hangman Page versus Pac, the match we were supposed to get at Double or Nothing. We're getting an appearance from Jon Moxley, his first appearance for AEW since he had his match with Joey Janela, I think. And obviously we didn't get the match between him and Omega at at All Out. We are going to be getting that at the next AEW pay-per-view, which is in Baltimore, Full Gear, and I might be attending that show. So it might have been fortuitous for me that we didn't get Moxley and Omega at All Out, because now it's like, oh, I might be seeing the match in person. We're getting Cody and Jericho for the title. We're getting so that's the next pay-per-view. But then we're getting, on this show, we're getting the six-man tag with Jericho's two mystery partners. It's Omega and the Bucks versus Jericho and two mystery partners. And it's like, all right, I want to see who the hell those partners are. It should be a nice surprise. And I'm going to be there live to see it in person with two friends. And one of my friends is bringing his son, who's going to be attending his first wrestling show. So I am super happy to be exposing a child to this art form. He's already a fan, but he hasn't attended a show yet. So we're going to be giving him that experience, and that's a super, super cool experience to have. My first wrestling show, I went to a house show in D.C., same venue, oddly enough. It was called something different back then. I believe it was called was it the USA Arena back then? I don't know. It's changed names multiple times. But anyway, the big thing I remember from that show was getting to see Andre the Giant in person. So that was a cool, I got to see Andre the Giant at 6 years old. That was pretty neat. So hopefully the kid has a really remarkable experience attending this, and I'm going to be very curious to see what AEW brings to the table for their first show. And again, they're going up against a stacked NXT show, so they're going to want to bring their A game as well. But I think with Moxley, the six-man tag, the mystery surrounding the six-man tag, and a couple other things going on, I think they're going to be fine. We're also going to get the first AEW Women's Champion crowned as Riho takes on Nyla Rose, who should probably stay off of Twitter. But actually, if you have any kind of fame in the public sphere, if you're a celebrity of any level, you should probably get off Twitter, because I swear to God, it's the worst thing that has ever happened to famous people and society at large, which is probably another topic for another video. But when you see some of the stupid things that famous people say on Twitter, it's like, dude, you should really stay the fuck off Twitter. Jesus Christ. It's been Antonio Brown, get the fuck off Twitter, you crazy, crazy man. But in any case, I'm very excited to see this. It's a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan, not just for AEW, not just for what WWE and NXT are doing, but, we're getting TNA moving to AXS TV, AXS TV. So that should be interesting when that change is ultimately made. We got Bound for Glory coming up. We've got MLW, which I'm going to start watching because people keep recommending it to me, and their show can be found on YouTube. And I'm like, all right, I'm probably going to start watching MLW. Ring of Honor just had a pay-per-view. I haven't watched it yet, but there's plenty of stuff to watch, plenty of stuff to get excited about, and I can't wait to experience it. So next week is going to be a huge week for wrestling fans, and I can't wait to see how it all goes. So hopefully you all enjoy it as well. Hopefully Raw, NXT, AEW, and SmackDown all turn out really, really well, and we have a very exciting week as wrestling fans. But that is all I have for you in this video. I have a couple more videos I'm going to be filming right after this one to give to you guys, so you're probably going to get sick of me this weekend, but they're going to be non-wrestling related videos, so if that's not your bag, don't worry about it. But as always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, hit the little bell icon to get notified whenever I post new videos, and be sure to post comments because I do typically respond to the comments. Not always, but I typically respond. And I appreciate the support, so thanks again, and that is all I have for you right now in this video, but stay tuned for more because I've got plenty more coming up.